Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao, and today I'm bringing you yet another engineer boot. You might think I've gone bonkers in securing a number of engineer boots, but really I'm doing this on purpose because engineer boots are a difficult fit, meaning that it's not just getting your foot in and out of the boot, but also how comfortable is the boot, the area that surrounds your foot, secure the foot well enough. And so I've been exploring the various different brands, including Clinch, Bristle Black, obviously John Lofgren here, and Brian the Bootmaker / Roll Club. And now I wanted to present to you my experience with John Lofgren. And John Lofgren is a US-based businessman and shoemaker who manufactures all his boots in Japan, though he sources materials across Japan, the US, England, France, Germany, and Italy. He's supposed to offer uncompromising commitment to both qualities as well as ethical production. And Lofgren boots, specifically their M43 boot and this Wabash engineer boot, in this case a natural Chrome XL leather, is considered one of the pinnacles of Japanese-made footwear. The Wabash engineer boot is considered one of the top engineer boots available on today's market. And so I was able to get this pair, as you can see, used but in very good condition. There was a small gouge that was present on the shoe that you can see sort of here. I've repaired it using Saphir renovating cream as well as some polish, and very satisfied with how that came out. John Lofgren offers a wide range of sizes in his boots. Really, half size US sizing is used for convention, so you can get a US 7 or 7.5 or 8 or so forth. All the way between 6 and US 12 are the sizes. They've changed their sizing convention, so your best bet in trying to figure out sourcing is go to a current retailer such as Blue Owl. There are other versions of the Wabash Engineer, including models made using horse hides from Shinky and others. There's a model called the Devil's Causeway that uses Shinky, as well as I believe a model I've seen using a deer hide, which is much thinner. I will say that these thicker hides, such as Chrome XL, as well as a fairly stiff heel counter, can make this boot a challenge to getting your foot into, so that ingress and egress of such a pair is important. So I actually took a pair of shoe trees, spring-loaded shoe trees, and I essentially applied it right to the edge of this heel counter to try to expand that space so that my heel, when coming in, wouldn't hit up against the dramatic curve that this boot typically has. And that has allowed me to get my foot in and out of this boot quite well. The other thing I've noticed that I haven't noticed in other engineers is that there's maybe a little bit more space along the vamp and instep of this shoe. So in order to get a proper secure fit, I actually go down to this 4th notch here, and then my foot feels very secure. And as I mentioned, this heel counter here, which is made, I believe, of leather inside for a heel stiffener, is fairly stiff, and it's challenged to get your heel properly in. And that's a little bit more noticeable in this pair of Lofgrens compared to other models that I have tried, including the Brian the Bootmaker and even the Clinch, which, while somewhat challenging to get into, the leather feels like it stretches a little bit more. This heel counter does not feel like it stretches at all. So I obviously got it to stretch a little bit using that shoe tree to create a little bit more space, maybe a few millimeters, but enough to get my foot in and out of the shoe without feeling sloppy in that area. Lofgren uses a machine-done Goodyear welting process, so this is a shoe that can be easily resoled. Many of the other boot makers that I've had have used hand welting or similar. The other interesting detail is that Lofgren's boots use a 270-degree storm welt, which is this lip of leather, which is also Chrome XL leather, that you can see ending right here at the level of the stitching and rising up. Theoretically, that gives this a little bit more waterproofing in terms of its functionality. This has what appears to be a stacked leather heel, and they said this is a 1.75 inch stacked woodsman heel. And then the height of this boot, some of you might be interested in height, is about 10.75 inches in terms of height. It's a little shorter from my comparisons, and I'm going to do a comparison video of some of my engineers than say the Clinch model that I have, which I believe is 11 inches. And it's definitely taller than my Brian the Bootmaker, which is more of an 8-inch height boot. But all of these makers, minus I believe Lofgren, can vary the height of their shaft there based on clients' desires and needs. This has a single lever midsole that exists under the welt here. And then we see Vibram 705 and 700 leather heel pads. So these are rubber pads that cover this leather outsole here. And you can see this stitching that is typical of John Lofgren. And then the V-bar heel block as well. These are US based and US made Vibram products for those of you who are interested in that. Lofgren says that their sizes are medium width in terms of sizing, so kind of a D width boot, meaning that if you have very wide feet, these may not be the pair for you. They're built on Lofgren's 110 last. This last seems to have round but slightly squared off toe with a little bit of a toe bump that you can kind of see right here. Other than that, these have buckles. Metal buckles that are made in Japan. These are roller buckles. As I mentioned, this particular pair, I've locked it in on the middle notch right here in the buckle hole. But when I put this on, then I will pull it further tight to give me a little bit more security and less sloppy fit along the top of my instep and ankle right here. So it just pulls me in a little bit better. One thing I really like about engineers is you can use this to tighten up the shaft of this leather and make it a little bit more comfortable. And the John Lofgren logo right here. You can see where the strap here is secured on either side here. You come in, well, a little hard to see, but this actually has a fairly dramatic angle from being a little higher on the outside edge of your foot, lateral edge, and being a little dropped off on the medial edge. So let's see if I can, yeah, there we go, show you that. So this is a more dramatic angle than any of my other engineers in terms of this slope or this pitch to the top of the collar of the shoe. This boot also has a rolled top, single row stitching underneath that rolled top, followed by a second single row stitch. If we look at the heel counter here, you see a triple row of stitching here. I believe Brian the Bootmaker does a quadruple row, and then the single row of stitching with a second design element here, and then a triple row of stitching along the top of the toe box. Some Chrome XL creases, but this pair, which had been used before, doesn't appear to have really creased that much. There are some tiny little creases across the top here, but these will actually form little rolls. I have shoe trees in these right now just to, as I've been working to restore the upper leather, and it's a little shiny because I have used Pure Polish products right here, cleaner and conditioner. This is pretty much all I used, along with a ton of brushing to rehydrate these leathers. But over time, this shine will slowly fade, and you'll get that more typical natural Chrome XL leather, faded kind of taupe color. I briefly wanted to talk about sizing of the Lofgren pair here. The 110 last runs slightly large, and while it's a medium width, Blue Owl and others recommend taking a half size smaller than your brand size. Standard and Strange, which also carries Lofgren boots, has a really nice history of the man, John Lofgren. He has occasionally held some controversy in the footwear market for some of his comments and stances, but overall seems to be a really good guy in terms of supporting a smaller manufacturer, individual run product, and you know, in terms of getting something that you would consider to be the epitome of boot making in the engineer space, it's hard to go with the value proposition of John Lofgren, or hard to go against it, I should say, because it is a really high quality pair that should fit most of you quite well. So with that in mind, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you're all doing well. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.